triathlete. This is a running analysis that was done. We just collected some video yesterday. The purpose of doing this assessment was to help the medical professionals clear her for competition because she's had a stress fracture or stress fractures in her one of her feet, and they were just looking for biomechanical assessment to see how she runs and what she does, and also how she runs in a couple of different conditions, that being without orthotics and with orthotics. So we wanted to take a look and see what she did. So we collected both high-speed video. So I will 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So this is high-speed video footage. So what we used in this situation was the Casio camera. So I think I'll show you that video camera. And I'm just going to, for this, I'm just going to turn off the front mode here. So we took different views of her running style as she was running on a treadmill, and then we also assessed her using 2 different running speeds, one being a training pace at around 8 miles per hour, and the other one being what we consider a race pace, her running at 10 miles per hour. And that's what she was using for her training and race paces right now. We put some marks on her skin at her ankle, knee, and close to her hip joint center. So we want to use this information to now track the position of her leg as she's running. So we took a side view. We also took, so this is the side view at 8 miles per hour, side view at 10 miles per hour. And then we also took a back view of her running. So from this back view, we're interested in looking at how her foot rotates inwards or pronates. So these are the 2 videos of her running from the back at 2 different speeds. And then these are the videos of her running at the 2 different speeds from the left side. So we wanted to assess both sides, and then we also wanted to assess the back. So now our task is to give back some quantitative information to the medical professionals, and even with the high-speed video, as you can see here, it becomes a little bit blurry because she's running pretty quickly. But I want to show you the difference between a high-speed video and a low-speed video. So the low-speed video, for example, oh, that's me holding her orthotics. This is the low-speed video from the side. So a lot more blur in it. This was collected at a regular, using this video camera, or a different video camera, but similar to this. So we use the high-speed video to reduce the motion blur and other things like that. And this is the high-speed video. Still quite a bit of blur. More than the other one. Interesting. Okay, so our task right now is to do an assessment of this with and without her orthotics. This condition here that I pulled all the videos for is with her orthotics, and the first videos are without her orthotics. So let's do some assessments, and I'll show you what I would do to actually do some assessments of her. So this first video is at 8 miles per hour, and without her orthotic, or with her orthotics. Now, if I was to pull in the video and I would do a side-by-side comparison, first of all, and this video is now a video, the first one that we collected of without her orthotics. So let's put on some text. So I would do this and do without without orthotics. and maybe increase the font size of that. And copy and paste this here and call this with orthotics. And now we have multiple steps in here, but if I wanted to, first of all, say, I'm going to count, I'm going to look at the left video, I'm going to say I have one step on her right, 2, 3, 4, 5. Say I only want to do assessment on 5 steps. So I'm going to right click here and set cue out, which I'm going to crop the video out, and then going back, I should have done this. So I'm going to right click here and set cue in, and then similarly on this video, I'm going to look at 1, stop it there, 2, 3, 4. Okay. So I'm going to sync these 2 videos in time now, okay, because they're 2 different trials. We should be able to sync them quite nicely because she's running at exactly the same speed on the treadmill. So as I see right contact on this video here, I'm going to move this video now to be at a similar point in time. Say right there, okay? So now these 2 videos are synced. Oh, thank you very much. Just checking, just checking. Okay, so there's the right foot. Oh, come on. Okay, right there. So now as these videos are playing, they should be pretty well synced. Move this one just a little bit ahead. Okay. So now if we want to do a quick comparison just to visualize what she was doing, we could even do some overlaying of videos. So if we actually do the basic blend feature here, we can see one foot versus another. Now the videos are zoomed at a different, it wasn't exactly zoomed the same way, so maybe that comparison isn't too good. But if I want to take a look at angles, for example, so what kind of angle is her foot making at contact? Then I would pull an angle up here and actually say, okay, so her foot is making this kind of angle here, and then on this one is making this kind of angle here. So there's a little bit of a different angle of contact. Actually, if I move this one frame forward 1 second. They're not synced. Go back to the syncing. Yeah, that's a better sync. So if I go back to that contact again, right there, I would draw an angle and see what the differences are between the right and the left, or between the orthotic versus non-orthotic conditions. And a little bit more sort of flat-footed, I guess, if you will, in the orthotic conditions. So I'm not exactly sure what that means right now, but we're just making some observations based on different angles. So I would make some observations like that, and then I would probably do something called key positions. So I would capture a key position, for that video and capture key position for this video. And I would call this heel contact. And then make some descriptions later on. And call this heel contact as well too. So we've captured the key positions, and we can also, at this point in time, after we captured those key positions with the angles on top of them, we can even make the audio comments here. So once my observation is done, and I'm not going to go through all the details of the observation, I would actually make some audio comments here based on this. So this is the key position at heel contact, okay? So I'm just going to delete those things and continue on. So I want to show you also what I would do is I could do an automatic tracking of her knee angle, okay? So I would say track this knee angle for this object, and as she's running, it should do a pretty decent job actually tracking that knee angle, okay? And now this point is going to go out of view here, but you can see that we've tracked. We're going to just stop, suspend the tracking. We're able to look at specific aspects of her knee angle as we track it. I'm going to put that tracking back on. Sorry, I lost it. So you can track any object, and by putting these black marks on her leg, it's able to track the knee angle throughout the movement very nicely. Okay, so I'm just going frame by frame ahead, and it's tracking that knee angle. So we can do the same thing with the right leg, with the without orthotics condition, and then we can do a comparison of those two. Okay, with and without orthotics.
What are those black marks on her leg? Are they?
They're little stickers.
Oh, just stickers. Okay.
Yeah, that I basically printed off on a printer, just put a dot in Word, and just cut them out by hand and just stuck them on her skin. Yeah, so they're just black marks. You can use a black magic marker if you wanted to draw on your athlete as well too, if you wanted to. This is the first time I used these stickers, but you notice right away in this situation that the marker's gone. It's flopping off here. She started sweating, and the adhesive wasn't too good. So then I started putting, in that situation, you're going to notice some tape on top of the markers as well too, to just hold them down and stuff. So they stayed quite well until she started perspiring, and then it just started coming off. So there's situations where things like that happen. But so we have a track, we have information here, and I can get information about her angle at contact, her maximal knee flexion angle, things like that, and do a comparison with and without orthotics. I would then take this information and compare it to normative data. So a person running at this particular speed on a treadmill, what is the normative range or the average range of where her knee should be flexing, or how her foot should be pronating, and so on and so forth. So we would do this from the side view, but we would also do this from the back view. So if we have this situation where she's running at 8 miles per hour on a treadmill without orthotics, or sorry, this is with orthotics, then I would go to the other situation where I would do a split screen, and I could do, oops, not that one, this one right here. So this one on the right-hand side of the screen is without orthotics. So let's paste that, and then paste this, and then this is with orthotics. Okay, so let's see if the orthotics are making a difference to help control her pronation, okay? The orthotics themselves as well too look like this, because I took a video of the orthotics, so let's just watch that video. So this is her right and her left orthotic. You're going to notice here she has quite a bit of a wedge in her left orthotic and quite a little bit of a cutaway here in her right orthotic, which I'm surprised to see, because they said that the injuries were on her right side and she pronated more on her right side. So I look at these orthotics, and I question what they've actually done. So can you see the wedge there? And then you can see the thicker wedge that's sort of straighter across. This one actually is tilted towards the thinner and then the thicker on the inside. Okay. So she's using these orthotics as well too in what's called pronation control shoes. So I'll just show you the different, so you can see the differences there. So now we want to take a look at that back video to see if there's any differences in pronation. And what I would do simply is maximal pronation. So let's take a look at the with actually let's take a look at the without orthotics condition first of all. So what happens if you're watching just the just make it big screen. If you're watching the right video, the without orthotics condition, is when people run, they make contact typically with the outside part of their foot, with the lateral part of their foot. They'll bring their foot flat to the ground and they'll rotate or pronate their foot inwards. You see that pronation there? So the pronation itself occurs right here. So we have various dots on the leg to actually look at how that rotates, that foot rotates with respect to the ground. So you have some pronation there, and maximal pronation usually occurs during what's called the mid stance. And the difference between what we do as biomechanists when we assess an athlete running is we collect the information when they're moving dynamically. An orthotist will get you standing on forms and things like that and say that you have this, this, and this. I'm not saying that they don't know what they're talking about, what they're doing, because I was a proponent of orthotics because it helped with some of my stress fractures when I was playing soccer. So do some really good things, but when they actually talk about pronation, they talk about a different kind of pronation than what we talk about as biomechanists when we do these dynamic assessments. We can see the active pronation. Your weight bearing on one leg in running, you have probably 2 times your body weight because you're coming down with impact forces. And then when they assess you in static position standing on 2 feet typically. So your body weight is half on each leg. We have a much more extreme situation here when we do our assessments. So we can really tell, I guess what I'm trying to say, whether or not and how much you pronate, okay? So we want to assess with and without orthotics in her situation of how much she pronates. What I would do is I would take her sort of to the mid-stance point. Actually, I would do 2 things. I would probably take her right at contact, looking at this angle. So what I would draw, I would put an angle on here that I would connect between the 2 dots on her shoe and then to a parallel, okay, on the treadmill, okay? So it's 80 degrees, let's say, or 10 degrees off neutral, off 90 degrees. So she's landing in what's called the supinated position, which most people do. They land on the outside. So that 80 degrees is going to be important. So I would then scribe a key position there and call this contact. And then make a description of this as well too as 80 degrees at contact. And then I would continue moving my video forward. Just move that out of the way for now. Move my video forward to a maximal pronated position, which is right there, okay? Then I would draw another angle in which I would connect the 2 dots. Okay? And now we have a, let me make this. So we have an angle of 94.3. Okay. So the difference between the contact, the 80, and the 94.3, I would call that motion towards pronation. but her pronation itself too is at around 94.3. So remember that number, and then we're going to compare it to the with orthotics condition to see if she's actually reducing her pronation. So I would capture another key position and call this max pronation. And then I would list this 94.3. Okay, and then I would do the similar thing on the left side. Any bets? Whether or not the orthotics are working? So at contact, similarly, I would draw an angle, connect this dot to this dot, and then I would ascribe, so basically very close to the same. It was 79.9. This is 79.4. Capture that key position, call it contact, and then we'll call it 79.5 for rounding off. So very similar at the contact point. And then we would go big screen just to move this out of the way. Okay, so that's maximal pronation. Dot to dot, parallel. Okay. Orthotics helping? So the orthotics biomechanically, my assessment in this situation would be that the orthotics are helping. Let me capture that one. So that's 91 degrees. Max pronation, 91, 0 degrees. Okay, so we captured that one as well too. So it tends to be helping. Now, from a biomechanical assessment, her orthotics are reducing her pronation by, so we have 91 degrees in one situation,
94, yeah.
and 94.3 degrees in the other situation, by about 3 degrees.
So does that mean they just make that tilt on the 3-degree angle?
Maybe.
Yeah.
It would be very interesting to actually know whether or not that corresponds, that 3 degrees difference corresponds to the angle that they actually made that tilt on that particular orthotic. The bigger question you have to ask is a 3-degree difference significant for helping reduce injuries? And further to that, is that difference in wearing the orthotics helping her with her injuries? We're assessing one aspect of her pronation. She has stress fractures, she might have iliotibial band syndrome or knee problems or whatever it may be. Ultimately, medicine, when we talk about it, is a science, but there's a huge art component to medicine, right? Mm-hmm. Try this, try that, it works for you, great, continue doing that. So I don't question the orthotist or other things like that, but I help supplement providing them with information saying the orthotic that you are providing her with is reducing her maximal pronation by around 3 degrees. And then it's great, it's working the way I want it to work, and more specifically, is it helping the animal? Has it reduced her injuries over time? So,
But you're not addressing the root of the problem, though.
which is?
Her running stuff, her running technique is not that great.
Her running technique is not that great? No?
So is there like, she would need to, if you need orthotics, should you not be going through some physio and stuff to strengthen certain muscles to help pull the structure in line?
Yep, so she's
So
in,
you don't need,
so she's in rehab right now with the physio downstairs.
Yeah.
So she's seeing the sports medicine doctor, and the sports medicine doctor was the one who recommended that she try some orthotics out. And the orthotics seem to be helping her with that, but with the physio. So she started running on the underwater treadmill first, low impact, started getting rehab there, and then went to slow speed on a regular treadmill, and now she's been doing her training at pretty well full training pace on a regular treadmill with orthotics,
Yeah.
and her issues have subsided.
You can see on the side view actually, like the muscles seem to fire far more without the orthotics. Like there's more muscle work
Okay,
going
let's
on
take a look.
visually. Kind of interesting.
So let's talk about some of these things that, so we have with and without orthotics, and let's just watch the video. We'll watch it at slow speed. So you're saying that, what do you observe here? Explain to people.
Seems like there's more, especially look at like
She's
the
not very
ripples.
efficient,
It
is what
looks-
he's trying to say.
Or it just looks more relaxed on the left side to me, or is it just in my head because I'm expecting it to be?
Maybe?
Or it could be the difference in light.
Her
difficult
swing
thing-
phase is different too on both sides.
Or sorry?
Her swing phase is different on both sides as well,
Yep.
which is an issue with hip abductors and flexors. But I don't see a very good running style there.
You don't?
No.
I do.
Very efficient.
That was one of my first observations that I made, was that her running style was very good, and whatever I define as very good. I've seen thousands of runners, and I've seen some runners that are just hideous. But when I talk about hideous, I talk about I've seen runners before land on their toe on one foot, on their heel on the other foot, and they're doing this clop, clop, clop. And then they seem to be running, 33-minute 10Ks. So what am I supposed to say to them, right? I can say to them that if you run more efficiently, you probably save more energy and you might be able to run a 29-minute 10K. But nonetheless, there are certain aspects that you just don't screw with. They have some, good physiology, but they might not have some good biomechanics. And if you screw around with their biomechanics, then you might screw around with everything else. So with Emily, again, she's 16 years old. I found that she was, visually, if you were to look holistically, a pretty good runner. I thought she was pretty fluid. I didn't think she had any huge asymmetries. When I talk about looking at right-left side differences, I didn't see any large differences between her left and her right side. She might still be favoring that right foot because of her stress fracture, so you might be able to see some asymmetries. That's another thing that I would actually assess. So I would basically be looking at time-wise. So if I went back to right before her heel contact, another thing I would do is I would put a clock on here. Let's make this a little bit bigger. And I'm going to call this 0, okay? And I'm purely going to go on time here. Just to assess what her contact time is, and then her flight time is a little bit different. So as she's just releasing her toe right there, then I would actually say stop counting. So I keep that clock there. And then on this side, similarly, just in case I don't have them sync properly, I'll do another step analysis here. So that's her first contact point. I would put a clock on here, and I would set it to 0 at that point. And then moving forward, right there, I would stop counting. So her stride length, her contact phase on her right foot is that. Okay, and then I would do that same thing on the left foot. So that would be the right foot. And then I would do the same thing on the left foot to see what her contact time. So go back here, first contact, clock on here, 0 point. Watch her contact time on her left, which is there, okay? So stop counting, so a little bit less on her left foot by about 0.03 seconds. And then similarly, I would do the same thing on her left foot. Here, just look at the contact time. Right there, first contact, 0 point. Oops. Okay, that's one frame too far right there, okay? Ooh, 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 you don't want to do that. Okay, so stop counting there. So seems to have a little bit of difference, right, left, with and without orthotics, compensating somehow a little bit difference in the contact time. So seems to be a little more asymmetrical without her, with